The burned black coat lay across the hearing table when Evelyn Price drove her shears through its collar. The name she had found 36 hours earlier was gone. Fresh silk hid her missing sister's warning. But only a tailor could see the lie. Across the chamber, Vincent Moretti watched his family attorney slip through a side door with a garment bag. Vincent's men moved to stop him. "Let him go," Vincent said. Evelyn stared at the man, powerful enough to end the chase with one word. Why would a Mafia boss allow the suspect to walk away with the real coat? And why had someone risked murder to erase a seam no court would notice? The answer began with a promise Vincent had broken. A mistake Evelyn could not undo. And scorched wool, connecting both families. 36 hours earlier, Evelyn was closing her tailor shop when the most feared man in Chicago placed that coat on her cutting table. Evelyn had spent 26 years making expensive people stand still while she corrected what their money could not. She was 48, plus size, steady-handed, and unimpressed by labels sewn where anyone could see them. A black sedan stopped outside her riverfront shop. Two men remained at the curb while Vincent entered alone. He offered no introduction. His face had appeared beside too many stories about waterfront unions and men who changed their testimony. He opened a cedar case on her table. Inside rested a man's black overcoat, burned along the left shoulder and stiff with age. "It belonged to my father," he said. "Tomorrow night. It will be displayed at a foundation hearing. I need it stable enough to survive the trip." Evelyn kept her hands away. Restored or disguised? What is the difference? Restoration tells the truth neatly. Disguise makes damage disappear. He glanced at the scorched shoulder. "Tell the truth." She pulled on cotton gloves. The old wool was hand-finished. Fire had eaten the outer layer but stopped before the chest. Someone had repaired the lining years after the burn with disciplined stitches. Evelyn lifted the collar and felt a hidden ridge. Who else has opened this? No one living admits to it. That was not my question. His attorney had removed it from a sealed estate room that morning. Before then, Vincent's father had kept it locked for 22 years. Evelyn slid a blunt seam opener beneath the collar. Scarlet thread appeared under the black silk. 3 short stitches. 1 long stitch. Then letters cramped into the hidden allowance Mara Price. Mara had been 24 when she vanished. Evelyn had been 26 and angry over borrowed rent money. Her sister had worked as an evening seamstress at the Harbor House Hotel. Police called her disappearance voluntary. Their mother died waiting for a postcard. Evelyn touched the last letter. "Where did your father get this coat?" Vincent's voice lost its smoothness. "Harbor House. The night my mother died." He reached for the garment. Evelyn folded the collar closed and placed her palm over it. "If you take it now, you may destroy the only thing my family has received from Mara in 22 years. If it stays here, you may not live until morning." That sounds like a threat. It is a risk assessment. Then assess this. The thread sits above the fire damage. Whoever stitched the name did so after the coat burned. Your father's sealed room is part of my sister's disappearance. Vincent remained still. His power needed no volume. It made everyone else wait. At last he drew his hand back. "Photograph every stage. You keep 1 copy. I keep 1. The coat stays until we agree where it goes. And your men remain outside." He nodded. Evelyn documented the thread. Repair sequence. And ash trapped under the newer lining. Vincent watched her work. "Can you prove the repair came later?" Evelyn turned the collar toward him. The silk was folded over an edge already made brittle by fire. If it had been there during the burn, it would have curled with the wool. Someone recovered this coat, repaired it, and hid Mara's name afterward. That was the first proof. Vincent cancelled the foundation display. Before he finished the call, the lights went out. The shop's emergency lamp came on above the rear door. Evelyn heard glass break in the workroom. Vincent caught her wrist, then released it when she pulled back. "Rear exit?" he asked. Past the pressing table, a shadow moved behind the hanging suits. Evelyn grabbed the coat and slid it into the cedar case. Vincent stepped between her and the aisle as a masked man rushed from the dark. The intruder ignored Evelyn. He reached for the case. Vincent struck his forearm against the cutting table. But the man twisted free and ran through the broken workroom window. Something small landed on the floor. A hotel claim ticket. Yellow with age. Bore the number 214. On the back, fresh ink formed 6 words. Finish. The coat. Forget the name. The power returned less than a minute later. Evelyn found the breaker box open and a clean cut across the alarm wire. Someone knew the layout, she said. Vincent examined the ticket without touching it, or watched you long enough to learn. His solution was immediate. Close the shop, place her in one of his houses, and surround the block with armed men. Evelyn rejected all 3. "I will not become luggage because your family kept secrets. A man entered your building. A man entered because you brought him here. That landed." Vincent looked at the broken window, then at the coat. "Choose the location." Evelyn called Dana Holt, a city investigator who had once brought uniforms to the shop for repair and had never asked for a free favor. Dana agreed to meet them at the Harbor House Annex, now a municipal records building, and to register the coat as potential evidence without surrendering it to Vincent's family. He disliked the choice. He honored it. The annex stood 6 blocks from the river, its stone entrance blackened by the same fire that had killed Vincent's mother. Dana met them beneath a security camera and recorded the cedar case before Evelyn opened it. She was a compact woman in her 50s with silver at her temples and a habit of asking the smallest question first. "Why this Tailor?" she asked Vincent. "My father's instructions named her shop." Evelyn stopped arranging her tools. "You left that out." Vincent's silence answered before his words did. His late father had left a card inside the estate. "Safe. Take the Harbor House coat to Price alterations before the foundation vote. Tell no one but Samuel Kane." Samuel had served the Moretti family as attorney for 3 decades. He controlled the estate room, the foundation records, and the sale scheduled for midnight the next day. The sale would transfer an abandoned waterfront block to a private developer. Vincent said the land was worthless. Dana asked why 6 neighborhood groups were fighting to stop the transfer. Because 200 families used the clinic and food hall on that block. Evelyn said. She had altered uniforms for both. Vincent looked at her. Then, at Dana. "Samuel said the buildings were unsafe. Samuel says many useful things." Dana replied. "Most of them benefit Samuel." The records room held surviving hotel ledgers in gray archival boxes. Evelyn opened the tailoring log from the month of the fire. Mara's handwriting ran down the pages in blue ink cuffs. Hems. Torn pockets. Missing buttons. Room 214 appeared beside the Moretti coat. The entry had been crossed out in red. Samuel Kane had signed the bottom of the page as the attorney who collected family property after the fire. Vincent's face revealed nothing, but his hand flattened against the table. "He told us no Moretti property was recovered." Dana photographed the page. It showed access, not guilt. Samuel could argue that he had performed his job and forgotten one damaged coat. Evelyn inspected the red line under a magnifier. The ink sat cleanly on the paper. The crossing out had happened long after smoke had stained the page edges. Someone had returned to alter the record. Dana found a second log showing that Samuel requested the box from city storage 9 years earlier. Another small answer. And another harder question. Why change a harmless tailoring entry after 13 years Vincent wanted Samuel detained? Dana refused. A suspicious line is not a murder case. If you frighten him now, he destroys whatever the coat leads to. Evelyn turned the old claim ticket beneath the desk lamp. 214 was not only a room. Mara had used the same number in the log beside 3 repairs on the coat. She was indexing her work. Evelyn said, "The stitches tell us where to look." Room 214 had survived as a locked office in the unrestored wing. The city custodian opened it while Dana filmed. Inside stood a rusted pressing table, a wall mirror clouded by heat, and a narrow cabinet filled with claim envelopes. Evelyn recognized Mara's order immediately. Her sister had arranged everything by garment type, then by date, never by guest name. Vincent found the envelope for a black overcoat. It held no valuables, only a repair invoice and a charcoal rubbing of a round seal. The invoice accused Mara of cutting open the coat and stealing a linen ownership certificate from its lining. It carried the signature of Vincent's father. Evelyn read it twice. Vincent said nothing. She hated him for that silence because it left room for an old fear. Could she have found something valuable and run? The thought felt like betrayal. But it fit the paper in her hand. Dana warned them the invoice might be planted. Evelyn heard the caution and still chose the wrong meaning. She noticed a storage notation in Mara's handwriting and recognized the address of an old train station. She rented a locker. Evelyn said, if the certificate was real, she may have hidden it there. Vincent told her they would wait for a warrant. Evelyn refused to wait. If Mara had stolen from his family, Evelyn needed to know before his men decided the answer for her. She left through the public entrance while Vincent argued with Dana over the records. The station had become a market, but a row of old lockers remained behind a boarded ticket hall. Evelyn found locker 214 with its brass door bent open. Inside lay a spool of scarlet thread and a photograph of Mara beside Vincent's mother. Both women were smiling in the Harbour House workroom. On the back, someone had written, "She took what belonged to Bianca." Evelyn heard a step and turned. The masked man from her shop stood in the doorway. This time, he carried a bottle of clear liquid and a lighter. He poured the liquid across the floor between them. "Give me the photograph." Evelyn held it against her chest. The man flicked the lighter. A hand caught his wrist from behind. Vincent drove him into the lockers. But the lighter fell. Flame raced across the liquid. Evelyn grabbed the spool and photograph, then used her heavy wool coat to smother the nearest line of fire. Vincent pulled her through a side door before smoke closed the hall. The attacker escaped into the market. Outside, Evelyn's palms were burned red. Though the skin had not blistered, Vincent's anger was colder than the winter air. "You left without telling us. I found my sister. You found a photograph and nearly died for it. Because you would have locked me in a car. Because you confuse independence with being alone." The words struck harder because part of them was true. She answered with the truth he had avoided. "And you confuse protection with permission." At Dana's office, Evelyn examined the photograph and thread under proper light. The scarlet spool matched the hidden name in color but not in age. It had been placed in the locker recently. The photograph was real. Mara's sleeve bore her usual pincushion, and Bianca Moretti held the black coat across her lap. More important, Bianca's left hand rested on a needle case. Evelyn enlarged the image. Her sister had always sewn right-handed. The hidden letters inside the coat leaned backward because the needle had entered from the left. Evelyn had assumed Mara signed her own name. She had been wrong. Bianca had sewn Mara's name into the collar. The invoice accusing Mara of theft was not an explanation. It was the story someone needed both families to believe. That truth changed everything. Vincent had entered the investigation to learn what Mara stole from his father. Now he had to ask what his mother had trusted Mara to protect from him. Evelyn returned to the coat and studied the inner chest patch. It looked like ordinary cream linen darkened by age. Under gentle steam, faint blue fibers rose through the weave. They formed part of a watermark and one embossed letter. The patch was not lining fabric. It was the missing ownership certificate. Cut into panels and used to reinforce the coat where no searcher would recognize it, Bianca had hidden the document in plain sight. Then stitched Mara's name above it, so a Price tailor might someday know where to look. Dana called Samuel to the office without revealing the discovery. He arrived in a charcoal suit and carried concern as neatly as his briefcase. He expressed sympathy for Evelyn's family, surprise at the altered log, and outrage that anyone had attacked a civilian. He explained that Vincent's father had believed Mara stole the certificate and caused Bianca's death while escaping. Why was that never given to police? Evelyn asked. Samuel's eyes softened in a way that might have persuaded her the day before. Because powerful men protect family disgrace, even from justice. Vincent stood by the window. You signed the property out after the fire. I signed for debris. Your father burned most of it himself. Samuel offered a plausible answer to every fact. But he made one mistake. He referred to scarlet letters inside the collar. No one outside the room. The attacker. And the investigators knew the name had been sewn in scarlet. Neither Dana nor Evelyn reacted. Vincent asked Samuel to proceed with the waterfront sale as planned. The attorney relaxed by half an inch. After he left, Dana said the slip was useful, but still not enough. They needed the full certificate, a clean custody record, and proof Samuel knew what the coat contained. Then let him believe we found only a name, Evelyn said. Vincent moved the coat to his lakefront house with Dana's approval, under continuous recording and a signed evidence seal. Evelyn agreed to work there because the shop window could not be secured before morning. She refused the locked bedroom his staff prepared and chose a sitting room with 2 exits. Vincent removed the guard from inside the hall. By midnight, they sat across a wide table while Evelyn separated the certificate panels, 1 stitch at a time. He brought tea without asking how she took it. 1 spoon of honey. She had ordered it at the Annex Cafe hours earlier. The small accuracy unsettled her more than flattery would have. Vincent watched her ease black thread from old linen. My mother funded the waterfront clinic, he said. My father told me it was charity that made her careless. Evelyn kept her eyes on the seam. Men often call a woman careless after they benefit from what she lost. He accepted the judgment. The certificate named Bianca as controlling owner of the waterfront trust, if valid. The pending sale required approval from her lawful estate, not Samuel's foundation board. Murder remained unproven. It did prove a motive for fraud and made the midnight deadline real. Dana arranged for an independent textile conservator and a probate examiner to attend the public hearing. Evelyn insisted the coat remain intact until they could witness the removal. Vincent wanted to extract every panel immediately. "If you cut it now," she said, "Samuel will die. We built the document ourselves. If we wait, he may reach it. Then protect the chain." "Not me." He nodded. For several quiet minutes, they worked together, his hands keeping the heavy wool flat while hers followed the history of every stitch. Near dawn, Evelyn found a line of pale basting inside the right sleeve. Mara had made it, unlike Bianca's left slanting letters. These stitches moved with the clean rhythm Evelyn remembered from childhood. The line stopped beneath a tiny repair, shaped like an open door. Evelyn understood the message before she understood the route. Mara had not only handled the coat after the fire, she had survived long enough to answer Bianca. An old Union directory linked the open door symbol to a church shelter for women leaving dangerous homes. Dana traced a sequence of membership dues paid under an initial and found Mara living 2 counties away under her married name. She was alive. Evelyn sat down because her knees would not hold her. Vincent waited until she reached for his hand. It was the first permission she gave him, and he treated it as something fragile. Mara agreed to a video call. Her hair was grey now, her face thinner, but she said Evelyn's name exactly as she had on the last morning they shared. Mara had seen Samuel lock Bianca inside the hotel records room after taking the original certificate. Bianca escaped through a service door, but died from smoke before dawn. Mara recovered the coat and helped Bianca hide the certificate panels. Samuel found Mara 2 days later. He threatened Evelyn and their mother, then showed Mara a police statement already prepared to charge her with theft and arson. She ran because she believed distance was the only protection she could give. Mara's testimony clarified the past, but Dana warned that memory after 22 years would face attack. The coat and records still had to carry the case. Mara agreed to come to the public hearing if her location remained private until then. Vincent promised. 2 hours later, he broke that promise, without consulting Evelyn or Mara. He sent a security team to move Mara from her home to a guarded property. The danger was real. The choice was still not his. Mara panicked when unfamiliar men entered her yard and fled through a rear gate. By the time Evelyn learned what happened, her sister's phone lay beside the road, and no one knew who had found her first. Evelyn faced Vincent in his study. "You gave your word. I kept her alive. You do not know that. Samuel knew where she was. Then you should have told her. You should have let her choose." Vincent closed the study door. Evelyn opened it again. "Do not do that." His hand fell from the handle. "Evelyn, the coat goes to Dana. Every photograph goes to the city examiner. Your men no longer decide where I sleep, where Mara goes, or who holds the proof." He said the hearing would expose his mother, his father, and the crimes that built his authority. "That is the cost of the truth." She replied, "If you only protect evidence you control, you are not different enough from them." Evelyn returned his house key and left with Dana. Before noon, the city suspended her business license after receiving an anonymous complaint that she had stolen a client's property and fabricated historical documents for money. News crews gathered outside her broken shop window. Samuel's foundation released the old invoice accusing Mara of theft. The lie spread faster than the facts. Evelyn had built her name one careful seam at a time. By lunchtime, strangers were calling her a fraud. That was the cost of her wrong assumption and her decision to chase the locker alone. She had given Samuel the photograph he needed to frame Mara's connection as theft. And the station fire made Evelyn appear reckless. Dana secured the coat in a city evidence room. but a probate judge ordered it produced at the evening hearing. Samuel would be there. Mara remained missing. Vincent called once. She let it ring. An hour later, Dana brought a document bearing Vincent's signature. He had transferred temporary authority over the Moretti Foundation records to an independent trustee, opened his father's sealed accounts to investigators, and withdrawn his support for the waterfront sale. The acts could cost him the legitimate half of his empire and expose crimes unrelated to Samuel. He had also ordered every guard searching for Mara to take instructions from Dana. Not from him. There was no speech attached. Only a note in his controlled handwriting. I was wrong. The choice is hers. Evelyn read it once, folded it, and returned to the coat. The independent conservator arrived at 4, in Dana's presence. She confirmed that the cream panels were linen security paper from the correct period. The watermark matched the waterfront trust. She also confirmed the panels had been inside the coat for decades, though full legal authentication would take longer. Evelyn documented every seam before resealing the collar with a temporary white basting thread of her own. She placed one nearly invisible knot beneath the left lapel. A habit learned from Mara. The coat was then sealed for transport. At 5:30, Mara called from a bus station. She had escaped Vincent's guards, seen Samuel's man waiting near her road, and chosen to come by herself. I spent 22 years letting men decide what danger I could survive. She told Evelyn, I will not spend tonight doing it again. Evelyn wanted to hide her. Instead, she explained the hearing, the risks, and the evidence. Mara chose to testify by live video from Dana's office, where her location could remain protected. It was not the dramatic reunion Evelyn had imagined during years of grief. It was better. Her sister was not a lost object being returned. She was a woman making her own decision. The hearing chamber filled before 7. Neighborhood residents occupied one side. Moretti lawyers and foundation officers took the other. Vincent entered without his usual security ring and sat behind Evelyn. Not beside her. He had surrendered the place of control and waited to be invited into the work. Samuel arrived smiling. A city clerk carried the sealed garment box to the central table. Dana checked the seal number. It matched. The clerk opened the box. The burned black coat appeared unchanged. Yet when Evelyn touched the collar, the wool resisted her fingers. She slid her hand beneath the left lapel. Her white knot was gone. The coat was a replica, built from old wool and scorched to imitate the original. It was excellent work. But the lapel had been shaped by a machine press. The real coat carried the softer roll, made by years of hand steaming. Evelyn requested permission to open the collar. The judge granted it. Her shears cut through fresh silk. Mara's name was gone. So were the certificate panels. Samuel rose with practiced outrage. He accused Evelyn of damaging evidence and claimed the empty coat proved the entire story was a scheme. News cameras turned toward her. Her license, her sister's name, and the waterfront clinic seemed to disappear together. This was the darkest loss Samuel had designed, not merely stealing proof, but using her own craft to destroy her credibility. Evelyn answered without emotion. She asked Dana to replay the evidence room video. The footage showed the correct seal and no visible opening of the box. Samuel argued that the switch must have happened before storage. Evelyn pointed to the replica's shoulder. This burn was made after the coat was sewn. The original coat was repaired after the Harbor House fire. Whoever copied it knew what the damage looked like, but not the order of the seams. The conservator confirmed the distinction. It proved substitution, though not the thief. Dana quietly reported that only 3 people had known the transport route herself: the clerk and Samuel, who had obtained the court order. The clerk began to cry. Samuel had threatened her son with an old drug charge and made her exchange the boxes in the basement garage. She admitted the switch, but she claimed ignorance of the original's location. Samuel called her frightened and unreliable. The judge ordered the exits closed. Samuel was already moving toward the side door with a garment bag beneath his arm. Vincent saw him. So did his men in the rear row. One moved to block the aisle. Evelyn remembered Samuel's method. He survived by making other people perform the visible crime. If Vincent's men seized him in public, Samuel would claim the Moretti family had planted the coat and silenced an officer of the court. Dana needed possession, intent, and an unbroken official observation. Evelyn caught Vincent's eye. Let him go. It cost him to obey. Every instinct in his life had taught him to close his hand around a threat. He ordered his men back. Dana signaled 2 plainclothes investigators outside the chamber. Samuel passed through the side door, unaware that the corridor cameras had been redirected to record him. Evelyn followed with Dana and Vincent at a distance. The passage led to the old courthouse document room, where obsolete papers were destroyed in a small industrial furnace. Samuel unlocked the room with an access card issued to Foundation Counsel. He removed the real burned coat from the garment bag and poured solvent over the collar. Dana filmed from the doorway. Step away from it. Samuel. He struck the ignition switch instead. The furnace door opened on orange heat. Samuel dragged the coat toward the opening. Vincent could have reached him first. But Evelyn knew what force would do to the weakened linen. The shoulder, not the collar. She shouted. Vincent seized the heavy wool at the burned shoulder, keeping pressure away from the hidden panels. Samuel pulled a folding knife and cut across the sleeve. The old fabric tore. Evelyn caught the falling coat before it touched the floor. Samuel lunged for the collar. She drove her steel shears through the strap of his garment bag and wrapped the cut strap around his wrist. Dana's investigators took him down before he reached the furnace switch again. Vincent stood over the man who had killed his mother and governed his father through lies. Samuel looked up and said the sentence designed to awaken revenge. Your father knew. He paid me to keep the family clean. Vincent's hands closed once. Then he stepped back. He can tell the court, he said. By refusing to strike Samuel, he preserved the arrest, the recording, and Evelyn's choice of justice. It was the most expensive act of control he had ever surrendered. Smoke rose from the coat where solvent had touched the hot air. Evelyn carried it to the steel table and opened the collar along her temporary basting line. Mara's scarlet name remained intact. Beneath it, the cream panels formed the waterfront certificate. The court conservator and probate examiner entered with cameras running. Each watched Evelyn remove the panels in sequence. The watermark aligned. Bianca's ownership seal appeared across 3 pieces, exactly as the charcoal rubbing from room 214 had predicted. Samuel had known the rubbing existed because he had planted the false invoice beside it. His altered storage request, his knowledge of the scarlet letters, the coerced box exchange, his access card, and the recorded attempt to burn the coat formed a chain no single frightened witness had to carry. Mara's testimony would explain the human truth. The fabric established the physical one. Before midnight, the judge froze the waterfront sale and placed the trust under independent protection. Samuel was charged first with evidence tampering and coercion, while the fire and fraud cases reopened. Dana warned that justice for Bianca and Mara would take time. Evelyn understood. good restoration never pretended damage had not happened. It stabilized the truth so it could survive being handled. At dawn, Evelyn found Mara waiting inside the tailor shop beside the boarded window. For a long moment, neither sister moved. Then Mara noticed the old blue pin cushion on Evelyn's wrist and laughed through her tears. "You still wear it too tight." Evelyn answered the way she had wanted to answer for 22 years. "You still think you get to tell me?" They embraced as grown women, carrying grief that could not be returned and love that had never learned how to disappear. Vincent waited outside. He waited outside until Evelyn opened the door. He brought no guards, no contract, and no offer to repair her reputation with money. He handed Dana's copy of the foundation records to Mara and a letter to Evelyn confirming that the complaint against her shop had been withdrawn after the clerk admitted Samuel dictated it. Vincent had also placed the Waterfront Trust under a board led by clinic workers and neighborhood residents. He would hold no seat. "That property belonged to my mother," he said. "Her choice matters more than my name." Mara studied him. "Bianca hoped you might become different from your father." Vincent looked at Evelyn. "I am learning what that costs." Slaughter. The city restored Evelyn's license. Though apologies arrived more slowly than accusations had, she reopened the shop with the cracked front pane replaced and Samuel's money nowhere near it. Mara rented the apartment upstairs and began repairing books at the neighborhood library. Vincent came on quiet evenings, sometimes with a coat that needed nothing and questions he had learned to ask before making decisions. Saving the evidence did not earn Evelyn's forgiveness. She trusted him because, after failing once, he kept returning authority to the people whose lives it governed. One evening, he brought the burned coat in its new archival case. The certificate panels were stored with the court, but Mara's scarlet name remained inside the collar. "The museum wants to display it," he said. Evelyn closed the case. Restored or disguised, Vincent remembered the first question she had asked him. "Tell the truth neatly." She repaired the torn sleeve without covering the scorch mark. When she finished, Vincent held the shop door open. But he waited rather than assume she would follow. Evelyn turned off the pressing iron, took her sister's hand, and chose the door for herself. Behind them, the black coat rested beneath the light, its damage visible, its hidden name no longer hidden.